The Mets have lost again. They will enter the All-Star break at 55-42, which on paper seems good, but it's not so good when you recognize the fact that the Mets were 45-24 at one point, so they've obviously went 10-18 in their last 28, which is unideal for obvious reasons, and might finish in second place, cheering for the Padres to defeat the Philadelphia Phillies. Tied at 1 as of 5:52 p.m. Eastern. This is not going to be a professionally recorded video because my computer crashed the last time I got one. Tried to make one. That and also on a bit of a time crunch right now. But the bigger trends is that while I'm seeing some encouraging stuff, there's some trends for the Mets that I'm still seeing that are problematic. And I'm not just going to talk about the fact that they haven't won before the All-Star break since 2015. But the Mets' inability to win on a Sunday concerns me. The last time the Mets won on a Sunday, June 8th. They lost June 15th, 9-0 to the Rays in that sweep. They lost on June 22nd, 7-1 to the Phillies. June 29th in that sweep to the Pirates, which was a horrendous series, they lost 12-1. And on July 6th, they lose to the Yankees by a score of 6-4. Today was probably the most competitive game on a Sunday since they won on the 8th, but they still didn't win. Now, I'm not going to do the whole Rockies thing. I'm just not, because, to the Mets' credit, they played the Rockies on the 8th and the 1st of June, but on the 25th of May, they stood on business against the Los Angeles Dodgers. And the Mets, before this, have actually done decently on Sundays. They lost on the 18th, but they won on the 11th. They lost both games on the 4th, and they lost on the 27th of April. But they won on the 20th of April. They won on the 13th of April. They also won on the 6th of April. So the Mets, before this, looked mediocre on Sundays. Not great, but not horrible. But this is a stretch that I saw last year, too, with the Mets just looking awful on Sundays. On the 7th of July, the Mets beat the Pirates, and that was a Sunday last year. But then they would lose on the 14th of July to the Rockies. They lose on the 21st of July to the Marlins, 28th of July to the Braves. They lost the 4th of August to the Angels. They would lose the 11th of August to the Mariners in that awful sweep. They lost the 18th of August to the Marlins. They lose the 25th of August to the Padres. They would finally win on the 1st of September against a historically bad White Sox team, just to drop the 8th of September to the Reds and the 15th of September to the Phillies. They got a win on the 22nd and 29th of September, to their credit. But then in their playoffs, they lost all 3 games on a Sunday. NLDS Game 2, NLCS Game 1, and NLCS Game 6, which was also the end of the Mets season. So the trend of the Mets is that, early in the season, they can do decently on Sundays. Looking at 2024 before that, they lost on the 30th of June, but they won on the 23rd of June. They won on the 16th of June, won on the 9th of June, lost on the 2nd of June. In May, they would win every single Sunday in that awful month, except for the 5th of May. In April, they would win on the 28th, lose on the 21st. I believe they won on the 14th and on the 7th, but lost on March 31st. But the trend for the Mets is that all of a sudden they hit like a point in the season where they just can't win on Sundays. And I don't know what it is about that day with the Mets. Maybe it's the start time, because I don't think it's a coincidence. Maybe it's the early start times, but the Mets have had early-ish games, during the week where they don't win all of them, but they win some of them. So, I don't know. And the Mets still have not come back from down went down after 8 this year. They were down 2-0 after 8, tied it up 2-2 in the top of the ninth, and got walked off 3-2 in the bottom of the ninth. This is a trend I'm seeing for the Mets where, this wasn't the first time that it happened this year. The Mets, on the 23rd of May, were down 5-2 after 8 to the Dodgers. They tied up at 5. The game turns into a 13-inning marathon where they lose 7-5. So, if the Mets are down after 8, they're losing the game. And yet, on the 25th and 27th of April and on the 3rd of June, Mets had a lead after 8 innings, and they wound up losing all 3 games. Not to mention, they blew the game on the 2nd of June as well, but were lucky and escaped with a win in extras. So, for some reason, like the Mets, they just can't, come back from down 8. And if they do, they'll just blow it, which is frustrating, to say the least. I will say, leaving Sean Manaea out there was very questionable, especially after that stolen base. Personally, I wouldn't have done that. That being said, he used Edwin Diaz for 2 innings yesterday, and even if he didn't, he still couldn't pitch today because of the All-Star game, and he's an All-Star reliever. So, in Mendoza's defense, Diaz was not available. And I'm not sure if you'd really want to use Reed Garrett. Brazoban was probably an option, but he's been unreliable. Stanek's been unreliable, so I don't know what you should have done, but they should not have left Manaea out there. Despite pitching decently-ish, he will earn the loss. Personally, I think Clay Holmes deserved it more. And there's no point in really conserving your bullpen when, when you have the All-Star break anyway and there's no more baseball until the 18th. So, that's that. And again, I just, think that even though the Mets may have gotten their first series went on the road since June 6th to 8th against the Rockies, and if you exclude historically bad teams, since May 5th to 7th against the Diamondbacks, first of all, the fact that this is the best that they can do is win 2 out of 3 is a concerning sign in and of itself. And then to complicate that with the fact that, the Mets win on Friday, bit lucky. And the Royals aren't a great team either. So I don't know what this holds for the second half. I think that we'll see the Mets do decent, but not great at home. They actually, to their credit, they are 7-5 with 4 series wins in the month of July. So I guess we'll just see how this season for the Mets develops. But this is just not a team that I think can make a deep run in the playoffs. I think that we're seeing regression by the pitching, the hitting, not really getting better, which is funny because I was actually almost going to say that the hitting looked better, but it's not. You had 9 hits and you only managed to score 2 runs. You kind of deserve to lose.